Hey fellow babies, welcome back to Pachter Factor on SIFTD.net. I'm Michael Pachter, happy to have you here. Hope that you are watching this when it's a brand new release as a Patreon patron. If you are, thank you. If you're watching on YouTube as a YouTube subscriber and getting it real time, thank you for that as well. We need support just to make ends meet. It costs money to produce this stuff. I get paid zero. This is all volunteer, which is why we offer it on YouTube a week late for free. But if you aren't paying on Patreon or as a YouTube subscriber, please read in the show description how to link your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch Prime account. It's free. You're already paying for it as part of Prime, and they will pay us. Please remember to re-up that each time you watch the show because we get paid monthly. So please try to go to the show description and link your accounts. We'll get paid. All right, fellow babies, today's question from YouTube, Pithy Gaming Clips. Recently, the director of God of War Ragnarok expressed interest in making a Castlevania game. That would be so cool. Would Konami allow Sony's first-party studios to make Castlevania? Is it smart for PlayStation to allow one of its internal studios to spend several years working on a property it doesn't outright own? I don't think, if Konami can't make Castlevania, I don't think Konami wants to license it. I think they want to sell it. There's no reason for them to continue to take the IP risk on something, and they also own the IP. Why let somebody else have full creative control? I completely agree that the God of War team's amazing and that any game they make would be phenomenal, but Sony doesn't want to get into a long-term relationship where they have to license and pay up for something every year. Would Sony pay up once in a big way? Sure. And so I think that the right way to structure a deal to let the God of War Sony Santa Monica work on Castlevania is Sony could say, we will pay you, I'm making up a number, but reasonable, $100 million for the IP against 20% of our revenue from the first game, 10% of our revenue from the second game, 5% of our revenue from the third game. So structure something, and we'll do a 3-game deal. So structure something where you can pay more money if you do a lot of revenue. So I said $100 million. If it's a $1 billion game, you've already hit the $100 million. If it's a $200 million game, then they'll have upside. Because they made $100 million, they got 50% of the revenue. So Konami would take no risk if the game was bad, but they would have upside if the game was good. So I think you can structure something like that. Would Sony enter into a deal for one game license, put in $200 million of development, expense, $100 million of marketing expense, make the game, have it be $1 billion game, and then have Konami say, oh, okay, well, the royalty on the next one is 50%. Or now that you've turned it into a big brand, we'll shop it around and have EA do the next one or Take-Two do the next one. Sony can't take that risk. So ownership is really the only way I'd see it. It's different for an IP like Star Wars, right? Where you're very confident the brand's going to have value well beyond the game. And you know that the owner of the brand is going to keep making movies and keep supporting the game brand. So you're willing to do the license for that, but you're not licensing something like Castlevania where your success can be leveraged and stolen back from you. So I think Sony buys it or this thing never happens. I think that's the only real two ways you're going to get that. So would they allow their internal studio to spend several years working on a property it doesn't own? No. If it owns it, yes. Would they structure a deal where Konami could share in the upside? Yes. But Sony would have to own it. I think the model that you're seeing with EA and Respawn, where Vince gets sprinkled around, where he takes Respawn, and Respawn is the Titanfall studio that morphs into the Apex studio that morphs into the Apex plus Star Wars Jedi studio, so it's 2 teams, and then morphs into Vince takes over the Battlefield franchise. That's the model. So you take the Sony Santa Monica guys and you essentially double their team. You add another team. And you have Castlevania and God of War. Now, it doesn't mean that they're completely separate teams. You commingle the teams. so that and that's really how Call of Duty has grown at Activision. I think that Call of Duty started out with Infinity Ward making one and Treyarch making the other, and then kind of morphed into Sledgehammer was added, and then kind of reverted back to Treyarch took over everything, but there's 3 studios. And that is a smart way to do it. And the way Vince works with Battlefield is a smart way to do it. But you can sprinkle like that guy. And it's sort of like Stig Asmussen at Respawn. Like, you put Stig in charge and it's just going to be great, So I think it's that. So I think that's the model, that you double the God of War team, but you do it over time, and you build the game, and really that's what happened with Apex. It was a 40-person team that turned into a 200-person team because they're so good. Anyway, that's my answer. Thanks for joining us on Pachter Factor on SIFTD.net. Appreciate your Patreon patronage, your YouTube subscription, and your linking your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch Prime account. We'll see you next time.